guys, coming at you today with my birth story, but only the first part because it was a week-long journey. A lot of things happened afterwards, but the main birth story, 48 hours. I want to preface this with saying there might be, viewer discretion advised, language you might not want to hear, a little graphic detail. A lot happened, for sure. And I might get a little emotional too because it definitely did not go as I had planned at all. So this video is kind of to help me deal with it. So I'm not really looking for like suggestions or, opinions on what I should have done. It was all decisions I had to make in the moment, and I wish it would have went differently, but it got me this beautiful boy. So he's precious and I love him. But do I wish it went differently? Yeah. But there's a lot of extenuating circumstances, however you say it. I took just like notes in my phone over the 48 hours, which some of the stuff I still forgot and people had mentioned to me, like my husband was there and my mom was there the whole time, but there was some points at the end where I was just in so much pain that like I don't really remember times and stuff like that, so they had to fill me in. But I have a little list of what happened and in what order and kind of what I ate, even though, there's only a couple of meals I was there for that I actually got to like order food before the storm hit. So it started Thursday morning. I had gotten an ultrasound on Monday to make sure he was okay to go 42 weeks without, being induced, because they did want to induce me because of my age and because of my weight, because I got in, by the second trimester, I was technically obese again, which I had just gotten out of it, not too long before that. I was only overweight. So they wanted to induce. So they were worried that his, placenta wasn't going to last out, or that the amniotic fluid wasn't going to be, high enough, or he was going to be too big or too small, or, whatever. So I got an ultrasound, a growth ultrasound on Monday before the storm hit. And everything looked fine. And then they wanted to do another one on Thursday to make sure I could go past Saturday. So Thursday morning rolls around and I had an OB appointment or midwife appointment on Friday to be checked. And I figured Friday morning would be kind of late to like getting things going and like into the hospital and stuff. Like the bad weather was supposed to start to hit Friday morning. So I asked for like an emergency midwife appointment Thursday morning to check me out to see if I had dilated at all, if I was like getting ready, if I was about to have this baby. They still said that I was only like maybe 2 centimeters dilated and like 80% effaced, and I wasn't much further along. I had been having like kind of mild like little contractions here and there like throughout the week. Like I thought my body was getting ready to have the baby. So that's why I thought it was okay to go into the hospital and start kind of a procedure of induction. I went with the most like non-medical way of doing it. So that Thursday after the midwife appointment, I told them I would go into the hospital to get induced because I felt like my body was just about there, and I know with the barometric pressure dropping on Friday morning from it going from like 40 degrees down to 19 like super fast and everything getting real crazy, that my water would break. So I was afraid of that happening at home in Derby in the middle of a snowstorm or blizzard. So I made the decision to go in, and I really didn't want to induce because I knew that being induced would lead probably to more intervention, but I had to do what I had to do. So we checked in at around 1 o'clock on Thursday. We didn't end up getting seen by my midwife until almost 4 because she had someone else she was delivering at the time. So that pushed the process back a little bit. My decision was to do the Cook's balloon that would mechanically dilate me, and hopefully I would just go into labor naturally with that. My midwife wanted me to do the Cook's balloon and Pitocin at the same time. I thought maybe just do the balloon and I'd just go into labor on its own and I wouldn't need the Pitocin. After the Cook's balloon, I started getting regular and mild contractions like throughout. That was at 4 o'clock on Thursday, the 22nd. I had mild regular contractions for 6 hours, and I only had the Cook's balloon can stay in anywhere upwards of 12 hours. But by hour 7-ish, not even, I was already at the 4 centimeters that the Cook's balloon dilates you to. So it was taken out. Like, it naturally falls out or is taken out super easily once you hit 4 or 5 centimeters. I had contractions. I was like, yay, this is going to progress on its own. Like, let's just do this. We're ready. You know, I was having the contractions. I was hoping everything would just progress from there. And I was feeling hopeful. So I had contractions with no balloon, just natural contractions until 2 a.m. Then finally I slept for a little while. And then in the morning we went to Tim Hortons and I got the egg bites that I mentioned in the previous video from Tim Hortons, and I had coffee 5 a.m. on the 23rd. So this is Friday, the day that the storm is supposed to hit. And I wasn't getting any further in dilation. They checked me again. I was still only 4 or 5 centimeters. So all those contractions most of the night, like waking me up and stuff, they didn't do anything. They were not progressive. Nothing was really happening. So at that time, I said I would get the Pitocin, and that was at 7:30 on the 23rd. Then after that, I tried to rest as much as I could before things got really crazy with the Pitocin. They start you off real slow and real low. They do 2 milligrams or milliliters at a time, and every hour they bump it up to and progressively get more and more. So I rested while I could before like contractions started kicking up. And at 10 a.m. my water broke. Now before that, I was standing around hanging out and like, you know, having mild contractions. And I look down, I'm like, did my water break? And I'm looking, there's like a big puddle on the floor. And my mom's sitting in the chair. She like lifts up her coat. Her water bottle had fallen over and created a big puddle under me. So yeah, that was funny. But then at 10 a.m., I'm like, I look down and I see like little like droplets of water that are tinged a little pink. And I'm like, yeah, I think my water just broke. So yeah, at 10 a.m., on Friday, my water broke. But unfortunately, it was just like a slow drip. Like it wasn't like a full-on rupture. It was just very slow. And that'll come into play later, which I don't think I didn't write that down anywhere. It must have been, so between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m., I don't have any notes. But I know a couple of things that happened in between there. But at 10 a.m., my water broke, and I ordered a snack from the cafeteria. This was before the storm hit and everything went crazy and no one could order anything. So I just got a snack with bacon, cottage cheese, an apple with some peanut butter, and then we ordered a bunch of extra fruit and stuff to munch on over like the next couple hours. And my mom and husband got chicken salad sandwiches. I think we had fries and stuff too. I didn't write that down. Fries and broccoli and green beans. The green beans were gross. This might have been at some other point. Might have been Thursday night, because I didn't put food down Thursday night. So everything was just crazy. I was trying to put things down as I remembered them. I know at some point I ate broccoli and did not eat the green beans because they were really gross. But around, after that, I was contracting like regularly after 10 a.m. after my water broke. And at one point, they wanted to check me, and they did, and I was still only 4 or 5 centimeters dilated. He was also very high in my stomach still, or in my uterus. Like, he was not anywhere near the pelvis yet. Like, he was -3. If you know what that means, it's like above the pelvis. You gotta be at like 0 to be on it and like dilating and like, crowning, getting him out. So he wasn't anywhere near like putting pressure to get this process going. So they thought that if they broke my water the rest of the way, because they thought he had like the water was like keeping his head up from, descending down in. So they thought breaking my water would help the process along. So they did that, which was not fun. But after that, yes, contractions did ramp up, and my Pitocin was higher at that point too. We tried going on a walk later that night, like through the halls, to try and get myself to dilate. And this is the video we have. This is the only time we saw the blizzard. Our labor room had no windows, so we were literally in the dark, oblivious to what was happening outside. But this is the video we have, and it'll be nice to show Van this in the future.
Hi, Alycia.
Hi Van. It's a blizzard out.
Yeah.
Get here soon.
Yeah, hopefully you will be born today, December 23rd. Yeah.
In a blizzard.
In a blizzard. Here it is. Yay. I've ever seen it like that. It's really crazy.
But soon after this, contractions got really crazy. We had to keep stopping in the middle of the hallway to have contractions, and I was going to get into the tub. So at 8 o'clock, which is when my Pitocin was at its highest, I think, the highest they could go was 20, and I think I was at like 16 or 18. And I decided to get into the tub, which I think was a mistake because that kind of sent me over the edge. I don't know if it's because the hot water sent the Pitocin into my circulatory system faster and the contractions got insane, like really quickly. But like I was in agony in that tub. I was laying on my back just like withering in pain basically. Like it didn't stop. Like it didn't seem like it was like a contraction, ride the wave and done. It just seemed like constant like contraction the whole time. And I don't know if that was the case or if it was just my body, my mental state, I'm not sure, but it felt unbearable. Like I was like, I have to get out of this tub, but I feel like I can't move. Like that kind of unbearable pain. At this point, I'm like, I have to be checked because I hadn't been checked in a long time at this point. I think they must have broke the rest of my water like kind of early-ish, or at least it seemed earlier, and it seemed like I had been having really painful contractions for hours on end, and I wasn't checked that whole time. So like as I'm in the tub and I'm like having these contractions, I feel like it's almost time. I need to almost be there. Like I was super nauseous. I felt like I was going to throw up, and I was shaking. Like my legs were shaking uncontrollably. I'm like, I have to be close to having this baby. So I finally muster up the strength to get out of the tub, get dried off, get changed into like dry clothes again, and I lay back on the bed and they check me, and I'm still at 4 or 5 centimeters. And at this point I'm pretty, the doctors are already mentioning the C-section at this point because I've been at it I went in at 4 o'clock the day before, and at 11 o'clock I was 4 centimeters, and at this point at 8:30, 9 o'clock, I'm still 4 centimeters. So it has been almost 24 hours where I haven't progressed at all. So they're throwing around the C-section and the surgery route at this point. And I really was trying my best to avoid it. And so I agreed to take some meds to get some sleep, get off the Pitocin, and hope that my body took over contractions and dilating with no Pitocin, but that didn't happen. I still felt like I was having contractions. I really couldn't sleep very well. Yeah, they gave me the drugs to help me sleep. They gave me Benadryl to help me sleep. Didn't help at all. I was still in pain most of the night. Well, from 8:30 until 1 o'clock, where I basically said, I'm not going to be able to, even if this does progress, like, if that wasn't the peak of the pain that I was going to feel, like, I need something, because I was tired. I hadn't barely slept a couple hours each night, and I was really tired, so I got an epidural at 1 a.m. on the morning of Christmas Eve. And I went back to sleep after that. And at 2 o'clock, they restarted my Pitocin to try and get my body to dilate. Like, I was just praying that I would dilate and I could at least try to have this baby vaginally without having a C-section. But they put in a catheter at 3 o'clock, and then they were moving me from side to side every hour and a half, 2 hours, with a peanut ball in between my legs to try and help open my pelvis, to get the baby to get down and into the pelvis, and hopefully onto my cervix to help me dilate, because at this point he was still at -3. He did not want to come out. He was happy where he was. And I probably would have had him naturally at some point when I was ready, if there wasn't this storm pending. And I don't know, who knows, if things would have went naturally, maybe it could have happened. I don't know. We'll never know, I guess. But at 5 a.m. the midwife suggested putting in intrauterine contraction monitoring system, because they saw I was having contractions on the monitor on my stomach, but they couldn't tell if they were strong enough to be doing anything to move the labor process along. Like, if they were strong enough to actually be inducing, like, the baby to come out. And apparently they found that the contractions weren't very strong, and they weren't able to do what they're supposed to do to get me to have the baby. So that was at 5 a.m. They told me that 7 a.m., no change. still 4 or 5 centimeters dilated. At this point, the surgeon, of course, just wanted to schedule the C-section. Let's get going on it. At this point, we put the clock at 10 a.m. If I wasn't dilated, my water had broken and been broke for 24 hours. So at that point, they started prepping me for a C-section. And so that was at 10 o'clock. They're like, let's go, let's do this thing. And I'll insert a picture of us in the operating room. I did get to see him come out, like pull out of my stomach, and they drop a curtain now and keep just plastic in between you so you can like see him being born. We do have a little video clip of that. And then we have some after photos of us all together. But he was born 53 minutes later. And the entire time I was on that table, I was shaking like a leaf. I've only had one surgery that I remember in my whole life. I had surgery when I was 2. That was it. And obviously I've never been awake for surgery before. And yeah, it was nerve-wracking to say the least. Not to mention all the emotions going along with that I didn't want to do it. But he was born at 10:53, less than an hour later. And he was 7 pounds, 10 ounces. And he was 21¼ inches long. He's perfect, but it was just nothing went as planned, that's for sure. And then even more afterwards didn't go as planned, but that'll be for another video. So yeah, that was our birth story. There's more to it after that. Like I said, we were in the hospital for much longer, and more things transpired that didn't go as planned. But that'll be part 2, so stay tuned for that. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. He stayed good for most of the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, I'll be back with many more keto dessert recipes. Bye guys.